The time is 7:30. I call the May 7th council meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please. Manager Johnson.
Ms. Thompson.
Present.
Mr. Stump.
Present.
Mr. Carlson. Mr. Feiner.
Present.
Ms. Siegel-Morris. Ms. Scherer.
Present.
And Mr. Applebaum.
Here.
Thank you. With 5 members present, we have a quorum. We'll move on to community announcements. This is a portion of the agenda where we can announce upcoming events. Does any member of council or the mayor have any community announcements for the public?
I have.
Yes, Councilperson Scherer.
I just wanted to let people know, anybody that might not have heard or seen any kind of advertisements on social media, that Friends of Lake Afton is having a boat ride fundraiser at Lake Afton on Saturday, May 18th from 12 to 4. Come and get in a boat. There's canoes, pedal boats, and a flat bottom boat. Take a stroll around the lake if you don't like to get on boats, or if you just don't do boats, which I don't. We will have some purchases, items that you could purchase, that represent Yardley Borough and Friends of Lake Afton. So come on out and have a good time, and it's a fundraiser, so it helps us take care of Lake Afton, Friends of Lake Afton.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
have-
Councilperson Feiner.
Yeah, I just received note today on the passing of Stephen Milner, who is a member of our community and served multiple terms on council in the 90s. Also one of the founders of Artists of Yardley. Great guy. Actually, I met him when we bought our house, because we bought our house. He was the previous owner of our house, but I just want to take a moment to honor him.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other community announcements? Yes, Councilperson.
Yes, thank you. I was asked by Gather Place to make an announcement about an event on Saturday, May 18th, 2024 at noon. This will be a one-woman show presented by Shirley Coursey called Meet Susanna Warder. And this is a bus tour to William Penn's Country Estate. Go to their Facebook page or their website for more details. Additionally, just a FYI, but not official, because I know they were just received, but I assisted Gather Place with the Juneteenth event on June 19th, and I also helped Yardley Tattoo submit their permit for Pride Month, which the celebration they anticipate would be June 11th, and we hopefully will be able to vote on that at the next council meeting.
Sorry, you helped Gather Place submit an event permit for June 19th?
Correct, for
Okay,
Juneteenth.
Sorry, I heard you helped them with their event on June 19th, and I was looking at my calendar and a little confused. Got it.
Well, Juneteenth and June 19th sound very similar, so I understand. And the other one was the Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other community announcements up from the table first? Councilperson Stump.
Yeah, so as we're beginning the Main Street sidewalk project, as I was walking down Main Street the Sunday before last, I realized how dangerous it was. So I promptly went online and ordered us some Borough of Yardley Public Works vests. So now we're going to look legit, we're going to look official, and we'll be visible. And then residents will know when we're knocking on their door to discuss the sidewalk, which David is also modeling, and Ori, and myself. And then we also have these lanyards for our elected official ID badges, which there's a really great strap here that you can put this on, and then you know that we're here on behalf of the borough. We're not looking to sell you solar panels, anything like that. I learned the hard way after knocking on someone's door, and they were a little freaked out because no one does that in 2024, that I was very quick, like, I'm with the borough. I was just here to talk to you about something. And so, if there's anything that we can do to identify ourselves to the public, I think that's important. And I saw it in the movie Napoleon Dynamite, so I know I know it works. Anyway, that's in my announcement.
I did not know we had ID badges. Good to know.
To get into the building. One of those,
Oh, yeah, I
Yes.
thought he was talking about something else. Like, okay.
Yeah, it's just,
Your
it's
key card.
my key card.
Oh,
It has my photo on it and
Gotcha.
my name, so it's a
Okay.
photo ID.
yeah, I guess it would
And if
be.
we had all the sidewalks we needed, we wouldn't need the vests, so there you go.
Well,
But
we'll work on that.
thank you for your generosity in doing that.
Thank you, High Vis Public Works Committee, for the update. Any community announcements from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. This is the portion of the meeting where members of the public can approach council and address items not on the agenda. We ask that you come forward, state your name and address, and keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less. Any public comment this evening? Yes, Mr. Woodring.
Just confirming that the Abrams situation is being discussed under discussion items.
So I do plan to give an update on our conversations with Abrams regarding their stormwater agreement under discussion items. Yes, you are welcome to make a public comment about it, though, since it is not on the agenda if you wish, at this time or later. Thank you. Any other public comment this evening? Hearing none, I'll move on to consideration of the consent agenda dated May 7th, 2024. It includes items A through N, approval of minutes dated April 16th, 2024, certificate of appropriateness 24-06, 34 East Afton Avenue for a sign, certificate of appropriateness 24-07, 91 South Main Street for a sign, certificate of appropriateness 24-08, 31 West Afton Avenue for a deck, certificate of appropriateness 24-09, 10 North Main Street for a sign, certificate of appropriateness 24-10, 19 West Afton Avenue for a roof, Memorial Day Parade, 5/27/24 North and South Main Street, event permit Harvest Day 9/21, rain date 9/28 East College, Canal Street, Fitzgerald Field, consideration of FEMA-funded 25 North Delaware Avenue elevation payment certificate number 6, consideration of FEMA-funded 93 North Delaware Avenue elevation payment certificate number 2, consideration of FEMA-funded 93 North Delaware Avenue elevation payment certificate number 1, owner, consideration of FEMA-funded 77 Morgan Avenue elevation payment certificate number 5, final, consideration of Mary Yardley pedestrian bridge payment certificate number 4, and finally, consideration to advertise for bids for mitigation reconstruction of 33 North Delaware Avenue. Does any member of council wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing no request, I would entertain a motion to approve as submitted.
So moved.
Is there a second? Motion was made by Councilperson Finer, seconded by Councilperson Scherer. Any discussion from council? Discussion from the public? Hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 5-0-0. Police Chief's report, please.
Thank you, Madam President. I have service statistics for the month of April 2024. In April, we handled 584 calls for service. We issued 10 parking tickets. We issued 100 moving citations. We investigated 4 motor vehicle accidents and made 2 arrests, one of which was for a DUI. That concludes my report, ma'am.
Thank you. Are there any issues with the finance report as submitted, or do I have consensus to accept? Okay, manager's report, please.
I'm going to give the April review. The discount period for property taxes has ended. The tax collector provided checks to the borough totaling $744,255. This, as you know, goes to our general fund and all of our other dedicated funds. As I continue to report, right-to-knows have increased. We processed 16 requests this month. All were completed in-house with our right-to-know assistant and myself. Zoning permits have increased. We received 18 zoning permits for the month of April. 1 new home business, 1 new business at 16 South Main Street. No zoning hearing boards for April. We're not going to have any for May as well. Yardley Service Center will be on Planning Commission agenda for review on May 9th, which is Thursday. Building permits, we had 6 for the month of April, 3 UNOs, 1 trash cert. We're still waiting on our real estate transfer tax for April. Just to let everybody know, Farmers Market is celebrating their 10th year, and they're back in Buttonwood Park, and this past Saturday was their first Saturday back. Patty and I attended the Bucks County Consortium meeting in Doylestown on Thursday, May 2nd. The topic was contracts and negotiations, which was a very informative session. As an FYI, in January of 2025, we'll begin negotiations with the POA for their new contract, and that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Engineers report, please.
Thank you. We've issued our engineer's report within your packet. Are there any questions? Nope. That concludes my report.
Beautiful.
That was a great report.
Solicitor's report, please.
Yeah, just briefly, as you know, one of the, I guess the prior meeting that I was here, Mr. Rutterow generously offered to donate his property. I was in communication with his attorney, went back and forth with him. We also ordered a title report. I am in possession of that title report. It doesn't appear that there's anything concerning. There's a couple customary easements that are in place with regard to a driveway that transverses the property that I'll need to review. So I'm going to go ahead and take the steps to start drafting an agreement of sale. One of the considerations here is the property is actually in the floodplain, and it is the R1 residential district. So depending on exactly what the use is of the property, it's possible that we'll need some variances. So I'm going to discuss that with his attorney, and then I'll also reach out to you to kind of see how we see this going forward and what the actual use will be, whether it's open space or we're contemplating putting a parking lot there or some kind of facilities. So that's the update on that.
Excellent. Glad to hear that's moving along. Thank you very much. Mayor's report.
Yeah, thank you. Real quick, just wanted to again thank everyone for their participation and carry the load this year. It was a very successful year. Largest participation numbers we've ever had. Not all due to our part, but we'll take it anyway, right? Next year we got to talk to them about staying. So, and then thank you to our sponsors. We came close to raising $6,000 for Carry the Load, many of them who are in this room today, so thank you very much.
We'll move on to council member reports, starting with Vice President Feiner.
Okay, so on the North Main Street sidewalk, we did do a site walk with the engineer and Public Works, and we identified kind of the best path forward in terms of exactly how the sidewalk navigates the poles that are there and the grading, and I think we came up with a pretty good plan. That's going to be sketched up, and what I would love to do is that we are going to be doing, our work session got canceled the last meeting, so we're switching with general government to do our work session at the next meeting. What would be really nice is to be able to present the sketch of the sidewalk based on the site walk to the community at that meeting. And I just want to get, a sense from the engineer if you think they'll be ready, because then we could invite the residents, and if they come, that's great. If they don't, it's okay. We can send them a copy of the presentation so they can see it, just to keep everyone in the loop of what we're planning to do. Does that sound doable?
Yeah, that's doable. We could prepare, I think, when we last had a meeting with the residents, we had a nice color, plan that we could show and have that up on the screen and print it out as well.
Great. So between now and then, if we could let them know of that and start to collect, Paula, I'll work with you on that, to start to collect, the list of residents and the status, and kind of organize our communications around that. That would be great. Let's see. Yeah, we're also going to be working on, and I'm volunteering to do the skeleton part of our public project plan, the milestones plan, so that we can do something that the public can see the status of the project as it's moving along. So I'll do the skeleton, but then we can figure out who updates that. I think that's a fair way of doing it. And thank you for the update on the North Main property. I was wondering if there's any update on the hearing back from PICO on their signature for the agreement.
So we're still just waiting on their signature page. I have 2 voicemails that my calls have not been returned, as well as a couple emails where I have not heard back from him about the status of that.
Okay, so just the update so everyone knows what that is about, is that We have finally received the final agreement contract for the Pico property, which is the future Yardley Trailhead. We signed ours, so we're just waiting for them to sign it. Then we can go through the rest of the environmental review. Till then, we just have to wait. And I did want to mention one more thing, which is that I wasn't here at the last meeting, but the chief went through, and I appreciate the detailed process of the statistics around the traffic and accidents and reasoning behind whether or not to put a stop sign. So I just wanted to add another dimension to it. I happened to find an article, and I got a copy of the article from the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs. And it's very interesting because, let me just open that right here. Sorry. So the article makes a real distinction between borough roads and state roads. And it says the borough has sole discretion on the installation of most traffic control devices. And then it goes on to give examples where sometimes you need a study and sometimes you don't need a study. But in the case of stop or yield intersection signs, it says stop or yield intersection signs can be installed based on geometric conditions and traffic flow and traffic safety considerations. And then for all-way or multi-stop intersections, so like four-way stop sign, there are more stringent restrictions for that. And for example, if you want to put a traffic light in, then you need to get a study. So I think it kind of begins to answer my question of, let's say you have a very, very low population borough somewhere in the middle of the Commonwealth. You're not going to be able to justify a stop sign, but geometrically you've got a situation where there should be a stop sign. So this seems to answer that, and I think that we should get to the bottom of, and I'm not really clear on it, because I think, Chief, what you're saying, I think it's important, and I think this is another side to where is our decision-making? What are we allowed to do?
I did not render my opinion, Mr. Feiner.
Okay.
I rendered our solicitor's legal opinion.
Got it.
Yeah, so that
Law.
Got it.
yeah, so that legal opinion's based upon a memorandum that was prepared by my office. If you want to send me a copy of the article, I'll certainly take a look at it and touch base with you. I think one of the things when we're looking at this question, though, is if there's a specific location with a specific device that you're looking to install, so we have like a very narrow question, I'd be better able to give you a specific answer as to that device at that location.
Well, it's more that, I think that the idea that there's an article like this shows that this is an area of confusion for boroughs. And it would be nice for us to know where is our jurisdiction in these kinds of decisions and what is the process that boroughs go through beyond just, because there's a very clear distinction here between borough and state roads. So I'll send this to you, but I would love to just get clarity. I think we have something, but it seems to be contradictory with this.
Can I ask a question? Yeah, you said that according to the article, they said that it depends on, like, where we could maybe make the decision depends on traffic flow or traffic restrictions. Doesn't that have to be quantified with some kind of measurement and like some kind of study?
Well, not necessarily. Some of these items require a study.
Right.
Some of them do not. Like for example, each one has its own criteria. Like if you want to put a stopping, standing, or parking restriction sign, you have to show there are one of 9 conditions that were met. Each of the categories has its own levels, and I would just like to get, I think it'd be good for us to know what it is.
I think Councilperson Scherer's point is the item you read about the geometric conditions specifically says that you need to look at traffic flow and traffic safety conditions, which would beg the question, how do we quantify that if we don't have a study?
Right, and what's the best
And would they
practice?
accept something not a study, and if so, what would that not a study be?
Yeah, flow does not necessarily mean, flow could mean a lot of things. So we have to understand where this article, where that's coming from, and then how do we
But for
determine?
traffic flow, like, for it to be substantial, you still need a quantity. So you have to quantify it somehow.
All it says is based on geometric conditions and traffic flow and safety considerations. But in the other one, there was one of 9 conditions. So like, Does it have to be all of it? Does it have, it's clearly not the same. There's a clear distinction here between studies that have to get approved by PennDOT and other types of studies and other ways of justifying these things. So I just want to get clarity on it. You know, I don't.
I'm sure the solicitor can,
Yeah, and if you forward it to me, I'll take a look and give you a call. I mean, typically when you're looking at traffic flow, you're talking about sending out a traffic engineer with an actual counter, putting it in place and determining the number of vehicles. I'll take a look at the article though, and we can have a discussion about it.
What's crazy to me is there are how many boroughs in Pennsylvania? Like over 1,000, right? Probably.
I don't know.
I think so. Why are we the first ones to do? Why are we redoing? Hasn't someone done this? And where is this? And you know, it just seems like unfortunate that we have to go through the expense of
956, according to Google.
956. All right, so a little over, but you know, so somebody's done this work. Maybe we can find out who that is and get it. Anyway.
Yeah, as a general rule of thumb, PSAB is a wonderful resource. We've used them several times as a starting place for ordinances. Last year, I recall, they sent us like 8 different versions of an ordinance we were contemplating, and I mean, it makes a lot of sense to start there. We know that those passed vote, they passed muster, and land somewhere that makes more sense for us. So,
Yeah,
great. Anything else?
that's it. Thank you.
Perfect. Councilperson Applebaum.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, first of all, I wanted to thank Mr. Feiner and our engineer and Paula for bringing me along to Main Street to see what we're dealing with as we move forward in the Phase 3 of the North Main Street project. And if you really, I think it's worthwhile, even for residents, I know it's dangerous, but if you've got one of these, it's a little safer, to actually see what the benefits of this sidewalk is. And while we were out, Mr. Feiner and myself started speaking to some of the residents and gaining support. So I know that it's our plan. I don't think I'm speaking out of place here, Ori, but that the idea is to build a positive public relations spin on this. Not that it needs it, but that for people that really to communicate with the public and make sure that what we're doing is transparent and that we answer all the questions that they might have before there's a misunderstanding or miscommunication. Is that fair, Ori?
Absolutely.
So I know that all 3 of us plan to get out there and start that right away because it's never too early to do so. Secondly, I wanted to just report that our watershed cleanup project adjacent to the Veterans Memorial at Afton in Maine is going very well. Thankfully, 2 things happened. One, it rained all weekend, so the plants are now watered. Not to say, Mr. Feiner, that your attempts at watering the other day weren't valuable, but it was nice to get a true soaking. And, so we're getting ready. I believe the date is set for, I'm sorry, let me just look real quickly. I believe we are looking at June the 15th, and, no, sorry, is it the 15th and 16th? Well, it's sometime in the 3rd week of June. I'll report on it as soon as I have it, that they will do their celebration of the completion of the watershed cleanup. Also, I have been attending hard meetings and have learned quite a bit about their process and have raised some questions, but overall it's been positive. And third, concerning the Community and Economic Development Committee, I've maintained visibility in public and have continued to build goodwill in the community. I see that when I'm out there and I'm visiting businesses, speaking to residents about the committee and our purpose. They have been extremely supportive. However, I did have an unfortunate conversation with one of our businesses that there was a situation where someone may have embellished their involvement with one of our committees and the borough, and it caused a little bit of a problem. And so Mr. Feiner and myself went to speak to this person, apologized, and I want to make sure that if a resident or a business is approached by someone, the only people that really should be representing the borough in any way is either a borough staff member or, in some cases, a borough elected official. Now, we have ID cards. I think you had one earlier.
Yes,
Jared? Okay.
that's correct.
So my suggestion is that if they can't identify themselves by offering an ID card, then I would not give much credence to what they're saying. However, I don't want to cause too much of an alarm. It's just a one-off incident, and I just wanted to bring out just to make sure that people are aware that we do carry ID. Mr. Fine, do you have a question?
No.
You're just looking at me that way?
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's the end of my report. Sorry.
Thank you, Councilperson Applebaum. Councilperson Scherer.
No report.
Thank you. Councilperson Stump.
Yeah, so on Public Works, I was not able to make the site walk because I was out of town for work. So I did my own site walk the following Sunday, and that's when I established the need for the vests. And I was able to photograph the entire section of North Main Street where we're going to be putting the sidewalk, so that way we have photos to go on, don't have to rely on Google Street View. What else did we do? Trying to think. We've had so many conversations about getting Phase 3 going. It's amazing how many steps there are before you actually start laying the sidewalk down. So yesterday I was riding my bike to go pick up my car when I ran into Ken Smith, Ken's Lawn Service, who is our Borough Public Works contractor, and he was filling in the potholes on Buttonwood Park Drive. So happy to report that those are filled in. I was concerned about my 2-year-old falling into one. They're about a foot deep. So I actually, then on my way back, I ran into him again on the College Avenue Bridge, and so I decided to stay and kind of watch the process. Asked him a lot of questions and got a lot of information, learned all about the PennDOT approved cold patch process for repairing potholes. And so probably going to be his community outreach, educating the public on that via social media. My goal is to be so transparent and forward with information that we bore people with information about how local government works. And so that's something that I ran on, and that's something that I intend to do just to keep people in the loop. I know I've lived here for almost 7 years, and when I would see little snippets of things that were like kind of giving an insight behind the curtain as to, oh, this is what's going on, that was really, really helpful. And to also tag on something you mentioned in your report that I want to highlight a little more in depth. So one of the things we're going to be doing with the North Main Street sidewalk is we're going to have this project log that's going to be viewable online on the borough website. Essentially, we're going to just log all the activity that we're doing. So that may be something, incredibly routine. Like, we had a call with the engineer. This is what we're waiting on. This is what we need to move forward. Now, why I think this is important is with the Mary Yardley Bridge, which was before my time on council, I started to see a lot of chatter online that progress on the bridge had been stopped for several months. And so I actually reached out to Councilman Feiner and asked him about it. And that was when I learned, I didn't know, not being on council, not being part of the committee, not any fault of your own, that you were waiting on PICO's attorneys to get back to you. They actually did not get back to us. And so we went to Plan B. You and David, ordered the fill and leveled the towpath to which was great, is now we don't have steps, but that was not the original plan, to complete the Mary Yardley Bridge. And so that's what pushed us back into the spring beyond the timeline that we initially gave. And so I think just communicating those things, like I said, boring people with information that, hey, we're waiting on PICO, we're still waiting on PICO, or whatever the organization is, I think that's important that people see. And then it also holds us accountable, because if we look at that chart and go, oh, we're waiting on ourselves, then we need to get moving and make things happen. So as of right now, it looks like it's going to be at least a 1.5-year process, and then we're going to really try to stay on that. Is that the correct?
Well, the goal is to put it up for bid in the winter, early winter of this year, because that's when the contractors are looking for work for the spring and summer. And so that way we would, correct?
Yeah, I would say, first quarter of 2025 to put it out to bid.
Yeah, like January or something in that time. And this way we would be under construction somewhere in the late spring or...
About 12 to 14 months from now.
Yeah, so that's the idea. So everything has to go backwards from that date. And the loose cannon is that when you have revisions with PennDOT, you never know how many revisions or how long the process is going to take. So we have to allow for more time.
We think we budgeted enough time, so we'll see. But we'll keep the public updated as that progress goes. I know there's been a lot of people asking about it. I had one person reach out to me and ask me where the North Main Street sidewalk was. And I said, we literally just got the grant. This is a very lengthy, but I thought the same thing 7 years ago.
Where the third phase is.
Third phase, like where is it? Why has it not been built already?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was new here, I really thought it was as simple as getting some people out with concrete, slapping it down, and you've got a sidewalk.
Yes.
And I'd.
Find out how long he's been waiting.
So anyway, another thing I wanted to just note as well, because I think this is something that might be noteworthy. So, and Manager Johnson, you can correct me if I'm incorrect on this. I believe the College Avenue Bridge is currently slated for replacement in 2025. Is that the date we got pushed to? So, as I mentioned, we were doing patchwork on the bridge, and I actually drove over it today. It still is in pretty rough shape. We put a Band-Aid on it, and it's definitely better than what it was, but the bridge is still definitely in need of replacement. Something I learned through this process of being on council is that what I always called the College Avenue Bridge on East College Avenue is actually called Bucks County Bridge number 55, built in 1973. I don't think it's been replaced since 1973. I'm willing to go out on a limb and guess. And so the county is actually responsible for replacing that. And it will be done next year, which the good news for that is it's not going to interfere with the Yardley Harvest Day this year, because it was originally supposed to, and we'll see what happens next year. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So I didn't do that on purpose. So the next thing on here is with Parks and Rec. We actually, if anybody had noticed, the chairs under the Greetings from Yardley mural disappeared this past winter, leaving us with just tables. And there's been makeshift chairs that have shown up at various points. I think somebody moved the chairs from Burritos there. At one point, there were some rental chairs that were waiting to be returned that ended up getting set up. I don't know how any of this happened. But we actually, Councilman Feiner, when he was on vacation in Ithaca, New York, found some really nice tables and chairs, and I reached out to actually their Public Works individual, and they gave me a lot of background information. We selected 4 sets of tables and chairs, and Parks and Rec actually voted to provide these for us so that we don't have to use regular tax dollars. So I want to thank Parks and Rec for that, and also thank you for the people that run in the races, the 5K, the Memorial Main Street Mile. These races raise money for Parks and Rec, and that's how we're able to have these chairs so you can sit down after the race. So that concludes the Parks and Rec portion. The last thing that I want to do is I want to read an email that was sent to me this past week. It was asked that I would address this at the council meeting, so I'm going to address it. So this email is from Dr. Perlmutter on College Avenue, and the subject line is Councilman Jared Stump disseminating inaccurate information to borough residents. I'm not sure if this email was sent just to me or not, because I know there's been a few emails like this sent out about my fellow council members in the past month that have been BCC'd to, I don't really know how many people are on this list. But anyway, this email reads, Councilman Jared Stump, in your official capacity as a Yardley Borough Councilman, you posted inaccurate and inflammatory information on the Yardley Borough PA Facebook page. I would like to give you an opportunity to correct the record. I understand that you are a new councilman with little experience. That is true. Prior to posting, you should have taken the time to perform due diligence and talk to the homeowners who have signs on their lawn that read Stop Land Development on College Avenue. Instead, you decided to insult College Avenue residents who are attempting to preserve open space and prevent future major land developments, including the golf course on College Avenue. You based your personal opinion on the false premise that the signs were put up in regards to the Abrams Hebrew Academy, even though the zoning hearing happened in November 2023. You ignored the portion of the post where a resident who has the signs on their lawn posted that the borough is revising the master plan and the residential recreational RR zoning district on College Avenue was specifically mentioned on a proposal. I'll segue very briefly to that Facebook comment because that was actually not a complete quote. The rest of that quote reads, also, the Hebrew School's proposed athletic center on the Tanneray property has been appealed to court. So the actual comment shows that it's at least partially in regard to Abrams from the best of my understanding. Back to the email. So to be perfectly clear, the signs are in regard to the current ongoing Yardley Borough Planning Commission's development of the 10-year comprehensive plan for the town. Only through a records request were we able to learn that items on the plan included review the residential recreation zone and the underlying ordinance. Discussion needs to focus on future land development controls. By the way, that's the Yardley Country Club is the residential recreation zone. And C1 district and businesses. Discussion needs to focus on possible sprawl expansion of the zone into other areas of the borough. Additionally, it was very concerning that Council President Thompson had closed-door meetings with the Planning Commission specifically about the comprehensive plan. The residents of Yardley Borough have a right to know about potential major zoning changes on their streets. This information should not have to be obtained through right-to-know requests. It would be greatly appreciated if you could correct the record on the Yardley Borough PA Facebook page and at the next council meeting. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Regards, Don Perlmutter. So I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds here, but just to speak to this a little bit. Actually, let me read my comment first. So to give a little background, someone posted in a local community Facebook group, not the official borough page, photos of these signs, Stop Land Development on College Avenue. It started a flurry of comments. There were people started bringing up things from Lower Makefield, saying, is this the development at Sandy Run and College Avenue? What's going on here? There was a lot of confusion. Someone posted that the golf course was going to be bulldozed to become residential property, which news to me. I don't think, anyway. So it is correct. I did make the assumption that the land development on College Avenue was at the Abrams Hebrew Academy because, and actually the comment was already there that mentioned it. The first part about the residential recreational zoning, that part I didn't really understand because as drafting this plan, I mean, this is going to go to the residents of the borough and people are going to have their eyes on this. This is going to be a public plan. There's not really anything happening behind closed doors that I'm aware of, and so I'm kind of confused by this. But I will just read my comment. So I said, as Councilman Jared Stump, I'd like to offer a little insight into this, as my personal opinion is the signs are misleading and like many slogans designed to shock to grab attention. The project in question is adding a sports field to the school, Abrams Hebrew Academy, located at 31 West College Avenue in Yardley. This has nothing to do with the recent uptick in residential construction on private lots. In fact, this project is not classified as land development under Borough Code by Yardley Building and Zoning. The field project complied with all Yardley Borough zoning building requirements except two, and exceeded requirements, as in did better, when it came to important engineering considerations like stormwater management, which is very important to me personally given Yardley's history with water. The two variances that the landowner needed and received from Yardley Borough Zoning Hearing Board are because the landowner is permanently leasing a piece of land from the neighbor, 19 West College Avenue, Yardley, which impacted buffer requirements. Yardley Borough Council, of which I am a member, has never voted on this matter, as it has cycled through approvals organically, first with the Yardley Borough Zoning and Building, then with the Zoning Hearing Board. We, Yardley Council, did decide not to oppose the grant of variance. So, one thing I will say is I I do certainly apologize if I came across as demeaning. That was not my intention. The way that I looked at it is that the signs were pretty much solely in reference to the track at the Abrams Hebrew Academy. And so because of that, I thought there's no other information on the signs. There's not a website to go to. There's no other explanation. And so I took it at face value. But what I will say is what I'm understanding from this email to Dr. Perlmutter is the primary concern is that President Thompson is meeting with the Planning Commission, which I've actually spoken with her about what that meeting was about. It had nothing to do with zoning changes. We're not planning on making zoning changes. The only thing I've heard about a zoning change in my tenure on Borough Council is when Andrew mentioned a little while ago that we might need a variance with the Rutterow property. But certainly, if we were going to change zoning, that is something that we would survey the residents, we would communicate. It would not be surprised on you in a meeting. We all live in the square mile, and certainly we all want to preserve the beauty of our town. And so, given the assumption that the signs are primarily about that, I will actually stand beside my initial comment, and yeah, that's all I have to say on the matter.
Thank you, Councilperson Stump. So, my general rule of thumb with the email blasts that have been going out from Dr. Perlmutter is not to respond to them. I think it gives them more wind in their sails than they're worth, but because one has been read this evening and mentions me, I will say two things. The closed-door meeting that was referenced, as Dr. Perlmutter fully knows because she right to know the emails about the closed-door meetings, was Susan Taylor, Melissa Dawson, both on Planning Commission, and myself, drafting a grant application to get our comprehensive plan paid for, not using taxpayer dollars. So it was not a quorum of either committee, and I went back and did a quick audit. Dr. Perlmutter has asked this council 7 times in the last 2 years to draft grant applications in-house. So I guess we're damned if we do and damned if we don't, because we met to draft a grant application in-house, and she was not happy about that. The second thing I'll say quickly is the RFP was drafted by the Planning Commission. It does not mention West College Avenue, it mentions East College Avenue. This council did not have anything to do with it. I do know that the Planning Commission plans to hire a firm that will have substantial public meetings where public input will be gathered, as well as a borough-wide survey where all residents of the borough will be able to submit their opinions, thoughts, ideas. This will not be created in a vacuum. We're just trying to get some money to pay for it since the budget is tight. So I will leave it there. And if there is nothing else from you, Councilperson Stump.
That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. We will move on to discussion items. So I wanted to bring everyone up to speed on Abrams Hebrew Academy because it's been before this council a few times. Last time it was here was a letter of support for a change of plan. So I'm going to use the discussion items tonight to go over what's going on with their ball field project. As we all know, stormwater management remains one of the most complex issues that this council is going to grapple with. The application from Abrams is to improve the recreation space, and that's a prime example of the complexities of stormwater management. It continues to be necessary in this project that property owners work together. I mean, water does not heed to property lines, as I said before when we talked about this. So last time we talked about it, we drafted a letter of support. That was a few months ago. I asked for consensus of council to send that letter of support to Yardley Country Club, that it supported an alternate plan being advanced by Abrams that would utilize a different outfall than the one that ML7 currently utilizes. So the pipe would run into the Yardley Country Club's property. So next happened negotiations. It was about a 6-month process. Abrams, at their expense, drafted what ended up being 5 different plans, trying to appease all the parties. Unfortunately, an amicable agreement between Yardley Country Club and Abrams was not met. I want to make you fully aware of council's involvement. Ori and I have continued to be involved and attempted to find a resolution with the neighbors that abut the property and Abrams and Yardley Country Club. Our goal is to find a plan that is lower risk to Silver Creek and its stream beds and banks. We were very, very disappointed that the plans between Abrams and Yardley Country Club fell through. It represented a significant amount of time by all parties, and also, unfortunately, money in Abrams' case. So we found this out last week that the plans fell through. Yesterday, we brought Abrams back to the table one last time to see if we could salvage anything. Although a pipe running on the Yardley Country Club is not going to happen, they did give us an option that I feel is very generous, a massive show of goodwill on their part, and it involves two things that I'd like to make sure council is comfortable with. So first, they are already required to sign a maintenance agreement to move forward with their project. So I asked if they would be willing, if the hydro report that they submitted that says that the water runoff will be half of what it currently is turns out not to be true, if they would be willing to sign something saying that they would remediate, and they agreed to signing stronger language than a standard maintenance agreement or an additional document, as well as the maintenance agreement that gives the borough more, for lack of a better word, teeth to enforce that remediation if anything goes wrong. So I'm checking first if council is comfortable with Curtin and Hefner working on something to that effect. And we don't know what that looks like yet. This would be the first time the borough has done something like that, but we're thinking creatively here as we're trying to take care of Silver Creek. So any issues there? Okay. The second point is through the last 6 months, Ori and I, and even the neighbors were able to spend significant time with John Anderson. He's with Cornerstone Engineering, and he's the engineer for Abrams. And I want to take a moment to commend John. He's just an amazing engineer. He's a problem solver. He's very level-headed. It's been a pleasure to work with him. And he drew up a plan for a detention basin that we believe would solve most of the issues that are happening from ML7, as well as create an additional layer of protection with the Abrams project. So the detention basin would cost about $50,000 to install, but it's on ML7's property. Abrams has offered to pay for that detention basin in full, which is incredible. So I'm seeking the consensus of council for Ori and I to continue to engage with all the players. So try to get ML7 to come to the table and allow us to put in this detention basin that Abrams has agreed to pay for. Is there any discomfort there?
Can I just add something to that? Abrams has been really, they've gone above and beyond as a community member, partner, working with us to offer that. I think Caroline and I were kind of blown away that they offered that, because they're basically offering to pay to do something to remediate a problem on somebody else's property. So it's the way that I wish everyone was like that. Let's put it that way.
And they didn't stop responding to our emails after, like 7 a week. So our greatest thanks to them. So thank you for hearing me out. Are there any questions from council first, and then I'll open it up to the public?
Just a quick question.
Yes, Doctor.
Detention basin, is that what you called it?
So yes, there was originally one that was designed that had a pipe that piped the water, but it was going more towards another outfall that's problem near Mr. Pointer's property. So it's just a giant ditch,
Okay. And
and it will just slow the water that's running off, and it will slowly seep into the ground.
and this is on the ML7 property?
Yes.
And we think that they're in agreement?
No.
Oh, we don't-
Before I go out there and say Yardley Borough is wondering if you would do this, I would never, unless I had everybody's agreement that that is okay.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, you have my full support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'll open it up to the public now. Any comments from the public, Mr. Woodring? Hi.
As everybody knows, over the past 5 years, the residents of Van Horn have two issues, two primary issues. Okay? Stop damaging the residents' property and destroying the environment and fix it. Okay? Number 2, don't exacerbate the existing property damage and environmental degradation. For the past 5 years, myself and my neighbors have come before this borough, this body, and put faith in people to do the right thing. We are at a point where we are evaluating all of our options and ask again for the borough to do the right thing. We didn't ask for the parking lot, we didn't ask for the ball field, nor did we oppose them. We bought our properties, we live there, they're our homes. They're being damaged, our property's being damaged. Please do the right thing. So I have questions, obviously, on both of these tracks. On track number 1, the retention basin. Who drafts the document? Who pays? What is the timing? What is the next steps?
Who drafts what document?
Who drafts the document around, and what is the process, right, to put in said retention basin from here, from today?
So it would have to go through normal permitting. I imagine ML7 would have to apply as the property owner. And Abrams has offered to pay for it.
Correct. And so who's doing what to bring ML7 to the table and have that conversation?
Ori and I are going to call the owner of ML7 and ask that they meet with us.
Okay. This week?
Yep.
Okay. Around the Abrams plan for track number 2, don't exacerbate the existing problem. There was some confusion on my end as to whether it's the existing maintenance agreement or a separate document. I don't quite understand this, so that's question number 1. And then I think it gets complicated because these two issues become interrelated in terms of what's the baseline? What's the baseline? My baseline is 2019, before my property started getting damaged, okay? How do we measure that? Who measures it? When? So I think understanding the mechanics in terms of 1 document, 2 documents, maintenance agreement, and to your point, Carolyn, earlier, or a separate agreement that there's no real precedent for, what does that look like? How do those documents interact? I think as we've all observed over the past couple of years, the enforcement of said maintenance agreements creates a lot of ambiguity. So that needs to be very clear, as does the baseline, as does the measurement protocol, who does it, how often, who gets to decide. We, as you know, have a independent engineer's report that casts into question the entire validity of the current hydro report. We'd be happy to submit that. And as I mentioned, at this point, we reserve all rights and all options are on the table for us.
So I'll let Solicitor Griffin respond a little bit more into the legalese, but we don't want to create 2 documents that are duplicitous in any way or that step over each other. So if we can utilize the maintenance agreement and just make it more, I think that would be the way we would go. Or if we can't do that, it would be 2 documents. Andrew?
Yeah, so there'll be a new stormwater management agreement that will be negotiated with ML7 as well as Abrams Hebrew Academy, and that'll be signed and recorded of record as a new agreement for the plans. It sounds as if Mr. Anderson, the engineer, is going to design this new stormwater management plan. That then would be subject to review by Pat and sign off by RVE. And at that point, that would become the stormwater management plan that would be incorporated into the stormwater management agreement, along with this additional language through negotiation that Caroline referenced.
So 2 separate agreements.
No, it'll just be a new stormwater. So anytime there's a change in a stormwater management plan on a property, we would have a new stormwater management agreement drafted and executed. So it's one agreement. That agreement has attached to it a copy of the actual design plans for that agreement. Just references those plans and will have certain criteria in place for enforcement, inspection, so on and so forth. But the plans themselves are the plans, and then there's a separate agreement.
That we don't have a paradigm or protocol for at this point.
No, there's absolutely a form agreement that is used, and the facts are changed and the projects has changed, but stormwater management agreements is something that all municipalities enter into. It is pretty much a form agreement, to be honest with you. We're being asked to incorporate additional protections into that agreement, as Caroline mentioned, so that's something that we will discuss and will be negotiated with Kelly McGowan, counsel for Abrams, as well as whoever the attorney becomes for ML7, to make sure that all parties involved are subject to this new agreement, because there's going to be a new stormwater plan on both properties, and it'd be recorded against both of those properties.
The template stormwater management agreements already include language that erosion cannot be caused by the changes that are submitted. So I think the goal with any additional language would be giving more teeth to enforcement. Currently, we know under a maintenance agreement, if we feel that erosion is happening, we can remediate ourselves and then put a lien on the property or bill the property owner. But isn't there a better option than that to bring the site into compliance? So that would be the language we would be adding, just allowing us to enforce more easily, more quickly, and not going through years, months, 5 years of back and forth before we can get action. And there was a second question that I forget now, I'm sorry.
I think it was having to do with the sort of period, the measurement thereof and the baseline.
Of the baseline.
So I don't know if we put in language that runoff is going to be halved. Do we have a 2019 number? I don't know the answer to that question. We can't get something we don't have,
I
but
just want to understand, maybe I can ask you to explain a little bit further, because as I'm thinking about this, all right, so you have 2019, everything's good. Then the parking lot comes in 2020. Now the amount of discharge is different, higher, right? Now, Abrams hasn't done anything yet. So it seems that the baseline for Abrams should be where it is now, even though the baseline for the whole thing should be 2019.
Doesn't that skirt the fundamental issue, right? Which is that through no fault of our own, we have storm water damage on our property that's damaging, like.
No, I get that part. I'm just trying
I
to.
understand the issue for Abrams, but I'm asking, so I heard a
Yeah.
lot of, I want to thank Abrams, I want to thank John Anderson. No one has said, I want to thank the residents. I want to hang it, like at a certain point, where are the residents in your collective psyches around this? Because that's great. I would thanking Abrams, thanking Anderson, but so to put it in the perspective of, well, what's the baseline for Abrams? Okay, what's the baseline for us? The baseline for me as the homeowner whose property is being damaged is 2019 before the parking lot.
Yeah, well, let me just say, we care very much about the neighbors. That's how we invested so much time and are continuing to invest the time in trying everything possible to help the situation out. So if that's not clear by our actions, I don't know what to say, except that that's where we're coming from. And I'm only asking you the question because I want this to be really clear. I don't want any misunderstandings, and I'm just trying to think it through. Maybe I'm missing something, but how can the baseline for Abrams be before what it is now, before they've done any construction? Like, let's get this in place correctly. But I just don't, that doesn't make sense to me. You know what I mean? You don't want to have something that is impossible. You want to have something that actually works. So I'm not trying to negate your case. I'm just trying to understand the logic.
Ken Van Horn. When we talk about the baseline in
the
2019,
mic to you, please.
in 2019, that was our baseline, and I hear we're talking about putting some teeth into a maintenance agreement, and from my perspective, on my side of the just after my property. There's no erosion coming over into my stream like there is on John's property. However, I get standing water now in that swale. And I'm going to be submitting a letter to council so that you can look at that and say, hey, listen, maybe our maintenance agreements got away from us over the years. Everybody's, right? It just happens. Nobody looks at the property for a while, and trees are falling, leaves are accumulating, and nobody's cleaning it out, and that's my problem. So now I have runoff from an underground basin coming into the same spot where the larger parking lot is running down and eroding until it gets into the swale. And now there's standing water in there. That standing water is rotting the tree roots. I've lost 4 trees. I've paid thousands of dollars to get them removed, thousands. So I hope that this maintenance agreement is enforceable, and I hope that it's followed up on every year so that this is maintained. And I think from John's perspective, how do you baseline what we used to have? You know, I have a 120-year-old tree that's fallen over and it's gone. How do you baseline that? How do you put a value on that? I don't know. All I know is that it used to be way more tree and less parking lot.
So I think we bring it up, Ori and council, to understanding the complexity of it. Again, from Abram's perspective, I understand. I guess at a certain point, where does the neighbor's perspective in what we consider the baseline? And I guess I just don't hear that. Where does that come into play? And what I'm hearing is it doesn't.
I hope.
That happened. What happened has happened, and we're really sorry.
Mr. Woodring, I hope you feel that we have been trying to bring you into the conversation this entire time as much as we can. Everything that I've been able to share with you, I have. I've asked your thoughts. I've asked you to ask your neighbors. We've had calls with you. We are doing our best to bring in your opinion. If we do not have a 0.00 figure for 2019, we do not have a figure for 2019. I'm not going to create something that we don't have or say we're going to create something that we don't have. We will explore what the data that we do have, and we'll talk. Like I'm not going to have an answer that's going to make you happy tonight. I can't promise something that I don't know that we can deliver on, but we will try, as we have this whole time, to find an amicable solution. That's why we're back at the table again. We're trying to find an amicable solution.
Yeah, and
Both of your tenants.
I think one way to explain this is, okay, so when Abrams comes in with their application, they, under the stormwater management ordinances in Yardley and any other municipality, they just have to show that they're not increasing the rate or volume of runoff, right? And that's all we're able to require them to do under our stormwater management ordinances. That's the same in Yardley, it's the same in every municipality. Because of the residents' concerns, because of what has happened to your property, we engage them in discussions with, look, we understand that's the stormwater management ordinance and that's what we can do, but there's a problem here, and there's a lot of residents that are very concerned about it. Is there something that you can do to fix a problem that is not necessarily your problem, to fix the stormwater management for this area? And through discussions, that's something that it sounds like they have undertaken. They've done 5 different plans to try and do it. They now have this proposal for the basin. That's something that they're really not required to do under the stormwater management ordinance. So that proposal of what they're looking to do is to hopefully fix that issue to get you back to that baseline, is my understanding.
I understand all
Yeah.
that. Appreciate it. My only point is, again, the measurement around the baseline. I understand Carolyn's point. I understand Eric's point. I guess I'm just.
You're skeptical, and I understand that.
So
But all they can do is view the problem as it exists today, and what design from a stormwater management standpoint will ameliorate this problem.
And I guess that's where it
And that's what
becomes
they're looking to
interrelated,
do.
right? Because if the retention basin does get installed, which solves the original problem, that gets us back to the 2019 baseline. But without that, which is not a done deal, we continue to have a baseline then that is unacceptably high and causing property damage and erosion. So that's why they've become They've become so interrelated as we start to get into base, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's why the basin is really, I mean, this is the closest we've come
I
yet
agree.
to that, because that would, everything else was about dealing
would
with the neighbors.
ameliorate-
That would solve the whole thing.
Correct.
And that's where we want to go.
Correct.
We don't have yet a property owner there engaged with us. That's what we're trying to get to.
I understand.
And we, even then, you're not going to get your trees back. And that's why, as you know, we are engaging with Bucks County Conservation District. We have a site walk, Paula and I, next week to plant flood-tolerant trees that they're going to provide us under a grant. Then the week after that, Wes and I are having a call with the Army Corps of Engineers to explore stream bed restabilization there and at Rock Creek. So we don't have a silver bullet, and that's why we are hodgepodging together. I mean, we're not going to return the trees that fell and the bank exactly how it was. That's just, it's not going to happen, but we are trying to get back to flows the way they were in 2019. That is our goal. Anything else that we can satisfy tonight? Otherwise, I know that we will be talking to each other. Anything else this evening on this point, though?
Can I ask a question for a moment? So, first off, I want to say, Mr. Woodring, I just met you in January, and I do care about this, even though I'm being brought up to speed as I'm hearing about it. And Mr. Pointer, I care about your trees. I spent the first 22 years of my life in the suburbs of Texas. We didn't have 100-year-old trees. They didn't exist. I cry a little when I see the tree truck on my street. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I saw it today, and I went and looked to make sure it wasn't one of the big trees behind St. Andrews. I live on Kedwalder Court. So, what I wanted to ask both of you, either one of you could answer, because obviously we can't bring things back to where they were. It's unfortunate. It seems like the retention basin, if it's built, would solve these issues, because if there's extra discharge coming in and that's what's causing the erosion, it's going to sit in that basin and either drain out slowly, or it would sit in the basin until it evaporates. I don't know the exact design. I've seen.
Slowly, I think, is the idea.
So it's a slow, right. So I've seen both designs. We also have a lot of those in the suburbs because they're required to put them literally everywhere. I'm surprised there wasn't one put in already, but what I want to just understand is your primary concern about if this is done, is it just going to be, okay, we're done, and it might not be maintained? Is that the primary concern, or is the concern with moving forward on the retention basin period, and let's leave it and try to mitigate?
The primary concern is stop damaging in an ongoing basis our current property. We believe the retention basin will do that.
Okay.
Primary concern.
Yeah, and secondary to that is, we need to make sure that our maintenance agreements are followed up on and maintained, because that's, I mean, just come up and look.
Yeah.
Not being maintained, not at all.
Okay.
And believe me, I understand, this town is very old, you know, some of these things were put in place decades ago. Nobody here knows that, but let's review those, right? Let's get on it and say, hey, you know, if there's a maintenance agreement that we have in here, let's send a letter out to everybody who's supposed to be maintaining. Make them maintain.
No,
And then I think we'll avoid some of these problems, that's all.
Yeah.
I think the basin, I hope it works. I hope it goes through. I hope, you know, everybody is for the better, you know, if it's done. Thank you, you know, Abrams, thank you, council. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that.
Absolutely, yes.
I think
And I'm
I
sorry
think
that I feel like I've maybe come too familiar with you, and I'm not acknowledging that publicly, but we are thankful with your patience. We are trying. It is very slow, and that is painful as you watch things progress in the stream. I know that.
Yeah,
We are grateful for your patience.
Homes.
it's a slow, painful process, for sure.
Yeah, sorry, just a comment, not a question. So you know, like everyone, like Caroline, Ori, and myself, we've become familiar with you, and because of this process, I'm happy to say that more people are familiar with the issue than they were before this process started. So I see that as a positive step forward. It's not going to bring back the trees, but I also want to say, in addition to the positive, PR or communication, transparency, if you will, so that people are aware that these issues are happening, is that everyone here is a homeowner, I think, and we do care. I may not cry like Jared.
You should.
But there was a double rainbow a couple weeks ago, and I was this close. Seriously, though, you must know from my heart that, and you know this, that we truly care, but we sometimes have to work within the limitations of, the laws and ordinances. And we'll do whatever we can, I believe, to make sure that this is remedied to a satisfactory point. Thank you.
Would both of you be willing at some point this summer to give me a tour of your property, show me what's happening? I mean, I want to make sure I have this information.
Wait till the summer.
We can do it. Yeah, we can. I mean, we can do it as
The mayor's house too on your way over.
we can do it as early as next week if you'd like. I can make that work in my schedule. If you guys stay toward the end, I'll get your contact information just so that
Yeah.
obviously this is going to be an ongoing
It helps
issue.
to put-
So
It's an ongoing issue, though. We're going to
Or not
resolve
a-
the issue, and then
we are resolving the issue with the retention basin. Sorry, I misspoke there.
it's gonna be an ongoing stream.
What I'm saying is that this is not a one and done thing. This is a tricky situation, and as we're voting on things, I want to make sure that I have a visual. I have Google Maps open with your property, but I can't see hardly
Yeah,
anything.
You can't plan ahead of time. You got to go when it's raining. You have to go when
Oh,
it's.
so we have to go when it's raining rather than.
If you want to see what's going on.
With our umbrella.
We'll do both.
So Carolyn, interest in keeping this moving,
Yes.
can you summarize, do you mind summarizing next steps for each piece, like, just so I'm clear?
Sure. So once the plans are finalized for Abrams, there were some slight tweaks to the calculations on runoff. They took credit for some additional trees and water infiltration that they hadn't originally. Once those are submitted, did you already meet with John?
No, I haven't.
So RVE and Cornerstone are going to meet. That all has to be all tied up before it gets kicked to the lawyers for the maintenance agreement. In the meantime, though, this council is comfortable with Andrew looking into what those additional enforcement measures would look like, so we could have those ready to go. So first, plans being stamped. Second, lawyers. That's that piece. The other pieces, as we said, Ori and I are going to reach out tomorrow to ML7 and set up a call and invite them to the table.
Without Abrams.
Well, we'll obviously let them know about Abrams' involvement, but yes, probably without Abrams.
Madam President? just
Yes.
a quick comment.
Yes.
Or maybe a question. Being that I have been successful previously with a watershed cleanup remediation, do you think that this area would be appropriate as a watershed project? If
So-
I was able to find another grant?
I don't know that it needs cleaned up necessarily, but like I said,
Or
we're working
maintained,
with.
Using their words?
We're working with Bucks County Conservation District and the Army Corps of Engineers to explore grants that would,
Oh, okay.
that would aim to strengthen the bank through plantings and other means. The other issue with leaves, I don't know that we want volunteers coming to clean up leaves. I think if there's an issue with the property owner not maintaining their property, we should not have volunteers come every year and do that for them. But that's my personal opinion. I'm open to discussing that with you after.
Yeah, sure. I just want to let you know that I'm open to explore that with the organizations that I've been involved with.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, we're
One more.
quick.
Quick.
Yes.
I just thinking about what you said about thanking you. What I want to say is that when I first went over to your properties with David, and I got to meet you all, and my first impression that I think I shared with you, and then I came back and talked to Caroline, is that these are level-headed, reasonable people that have really gotten the short end of the stick here. So I want you to know that that was like the focus the whole time, because I saw that you were reasonable and I saw what was going on, and it just didn't seem justified what you're dealing with. So that drove everything for me. And then Caroline, a lot of councils, and I've served on other councils with very fine council people, would have asked the solicitor. The solicitor would have said, well, it's not private property, it's not your issue. They would have walked away and just let it, whatever happened, happen. And we wouldn't be at this point now, which I think is a lot of potential for making this whole situation much better, if it wasn't for the amount of time that Caroline put in to working with you, and for the amount of time you put in as well. So thank you. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. And I'd just like to offer, if anybody needs any firewood, stop by. It's free.
I used some on Friday at the bonfire.
All right, so our final, I'm sorry. Does anybody else want to comment on that agenda item? Okay, our final item on the agenda is Yardley Borough Guidelines of Council. That's weird. I was the only one, I think, around last time we saw this document. Did not think I would be able to say that. But essentially, we last adopted these in 2019. They uphold Robert's rules as for decorum and go over, how we set our agenda, how we handle business, and they also have rules for decorum during public comment. I realized we had some new council members join us this year. They had questions about do we follow Robert's rules or something else, and then also about how we handle things from the floor. How should comments be addressed? Can we talk amongst ourselves, or is it more formal? So obviously during the working sessions, these break down a little bit, but during our first meeting of the month, we are going to try to maintain these rules as long as council wishes to accept them. There are some notes on them. I don't know if they're ready for vote yet. So for example, when we adopted these in 2019, under Robert's rules, there's a way that you can reconsider a motion at a later meeting. However, under the new sunshine laws, something that we're voting on needs to be specified on the agenda. So we're going to be removing that. We changed over to the finance report being by consensus. Why we can hold executive session and what we're allowed to do during executive session, what we have to tell the public about executive session. Any questions or comments on any of this?
I think it's great.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think most of the notes are just to confirm that we're staying within the current laws. So yeah, I think it's good.
Are you looking for a consensus, or are we going to vote on this eventually?
Well, I think Paula had also added some comments on here, so I think we should vote on a clean version. So I don't want to put this back on the agenda for vote unless it's, to our liking. So is there anything that anyone wants changed in here?
I apologize, but I didn't have time to review.
Okay.
I'll be honest.
That's fine. All right. Do we reach our limit for productivity this evening? All right, I will clean it up. I will not be at the next meeting, but I will send it back to Paula Clean, and y'all can vote on it and see how Ori does following these rules.
I just want the record to show that I follow the rules by asking you if I could speak to the people here, because that is specifically mentioned that it should go through the council president.
Well done.
So
All
this
right.
is going to be part of the consent agenda then, because we're not voting on the next meeting.
Yeah, well, we have before.
We have,
Yes.
yeah, that's true.
Sure, I'll put it on the consent agenda, and a copy will be available for the public before the meeting. All right. Great. Is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second? Second. Motion was made by, a tie, by Councilperson Stump, seconded by Councilperson Scherer. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.